In today's world of modern medicine, many people don't fully understand just how easy it is in the past to go from a healthy person to a dead one in a matter of a week with no medicine to save them. Yes, I'm talking about blood poisoning, or as we know it today, bacterial infection. I recently watched a TED Talk about antibiotics and their resistance and how bacterial infections are becoming a thing of the future and not the past. Hold on. In McKenna's talk, she goes over the basics of how antibiotics are made and how they are resisted. In this, she goes over many of the human-made variables and the reason that bacterial resistance to antibiotics is taking place and how our society can attempt to slow this process
who got
down.
infections either recovered, if they were lucky, or they died. My great-uncle was not lucky. He was in the hospital for a week, shaking with chills, dehydrated and delirious, sinking into a coma as his organs failed.
But one important piece she doesn't go over in her talk is what would our world look like when the last antibiotic on Earth becomes useless? Or how would our post-antibiotic world look like? Without a doubt, people accept antibiotics as a large step in the era of modern medicine, as it was once called the miracle drug. During the Civil War, soldiers would coat their bullets in the blood of the dead, so it would be almost impossible to survive a gunshot without amputation because of infection. In 2015, the World Health Organization cited antibiotic resistance as one of the greatest current challenges to global public health. This is because we are simply not ready for its effects on us, but also the many different things that it will affect in our society. First thing that bacterial resistance to antibiotics will affect is the obvious. According to Antibiotics and Antibiotic Resistance, it should be noted that about 1,500 metric tons of antibiotics are distributed each year for therapeutic and human use. This shows where most of the antibiotics go, to hospitals, where people are giving antibiotics not for only infections, but almost any other medical treatment, surgery, chemotherapy, or even just plain injuries where an infection is at risk to the patient. You cannot cut people open and mess with their organs in the older days because it is for sure going to result in an infection. Medicine will take a giant leap back in history and will take a great toll on hospitals and sick people if bacterial infection resistance continues to rise. According to antibiotic resistance and bacteria, public, economic, and medical perspectives, an implantation of stents, hip replacements, usage of catheters, transporting organs, or most kinds of surgery, there is a chance of the bacteria entering the bloodstream or the site of the incision. This is a problem for most hospitals, seeing as many of these treatments must be performed in the presence of highly trained personnel with certain devices only available at the hospital. Well, not only will our perception of medical treatment change, but so will our diets. As not many people realize that today's mass production farming of animals, fruits, and vegetables are using incredible amounts of antibiotics. According to reconnaissance of 47 antibiotics and associated microbial risk in seafood sold in the United States, aquaculture production has nearly tripled in the last 2 decades. However, as production surges, many aquaculture facilities resort to antibiotics to combat diseases in an environment that creates ample opportunity for bacteria pathogens to thrive. So basically, aquaculture is a way of farming fish, and it's how fishing companies can keep up with overfishing that supplies around 40% of all seafood. With antibiotic resistance on the way, aquaculture will be a thing of the past. Not only will our fishy friends be hit hard, but the most common American meals will be under assault from our bacterial-resistant army as well. As fast food and factory-style farming grew drastically in the last 40 years, it became required that massive amounts of antibiotics are used so that animals can survive in their harsh conditions. According to genetics of functional tripartite complex assembly, the primary action of multi-drug resistant strains is through overexpression of active transporters, which recognize a broad range of antibiotics. In E. coli, the tripartite complex has become a model system to understand the antibiotic influx. In other words, many scientists are looking at diseases like E. coli because without further medical research done, our food industry will be torn apart by E. coli, salmonella, and food poisoning. Our society is heading down a dark path with no clear solution in sight. Our lifespans will be greatly affected by regular diseases we deal with today, but so will our food sources. How fast will this epidemic turn our world upside down? Well, according to antibiotic resistance sweeping developing world, the WHO's report, which includes the first ever global map of antibiotic resistance, notes that just 129 of the 194 member countries provided any national data on drug resistance. This list includes S. aureus, methicillin, E. coli, cephalorphins, Klebsiella, ammonia, and carbapenem. In conclusion, the main problem about bacterial-resistant infections is that they're appearing everywhere around the world with almost no effort made to track them. They will continue to pop up around the world and kill more and more people. Today, there's about 50,000 deaths due to antibiotic bacterial-resistant infections. In the next 20 years, that number is expected to be somewhere by 2 million. My generation will either solve this issue or take a step into a very dark future. Thank you, everyone. That was my time.